India is home to over 64 million MSMEs. That's a huge number of small businesses which power everything from textile and handicrafts to chemicals, engineering, and construction services. This sector always had its unique strengths. But let's be honest, these MSMEs historically been dealing with some of the toughest challenges too, which includes issues of credit, digital hurdles, and scaling up. With World MSME Day as the backdrop, we have brought together four leading industry voices to discuss more on this. So today we have Mr. Alok Mittal, founder Indifi FinTech, Vishal Pacheriwal, MD Parvati Fabrics, Christopher Sargunam, founder House of Vallaham, and Ashish Kukreja, founder Homesfy. These gentlemen will dive into what's working, what's not in this critical sector, and how MSMEs can gear up for a more resilient and competitive future. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, starting with you, Mr. Alok, funding tops funding tops the list when it comes to MSMEs issues. Could you tell us how digital lending platforms like yours help overcome the traditional barriers that MSME face in accessing credit, especially for unbanked or underbanked entrepreneurs?
Sure. First, thank you. Thank you for having me here. We think that the barriers to credit access really come on account of two or three core parameters, right? One is the process of going and discovering which lender to apply to, how to apply to them, is a opaque process. A lot of this is intermediated by direct sales agents or walking into a bank branch. And the digital mechanism has now put that power in hands of small business owners. We have especially seen the impact of these kind of access enablers in underserved communities like women entrepreneurs, right? Women constitute 20% of Indian MSME entrepreneurs, but their share of credit is less than 10%. On digital platforms like ourselves, we are seeing that cross 20-25%. And part of the reason is because they don't now have to go and figure out how to apply for a loan, go stand in the queue. And across digital lenders and now increasingly through banks, these facilities are available digitally. The second key barrier is in credit assessment, or what is called customers being credit worthy or not. And our belief on that has been that it is not the issue with customer creditworthiness, but the ability of the provider to assess the creditworthiness. Right? 85% of Indian MSME owners don't have access to credit. It doesn't mean that 85% of Indian MSME owners are not worthy of credit. It is that we have not figured out ways of assessing credit, and digital technologies provide us with a way of doing that. One, it takes biases out. Second, it makes more data available. For example, almost half of the lending that we do is through ecosystems, right? There's a seller on Amazon who's selling on Amazon, and hence we have understanding of their sales behavior. There is a dealer who's buying from a large corporate, and through that supply chain linkage, we are able to establish their creditworthiness. So I think these alternate ways of establishing who's worthy of getting credit and how much is the second key enabler in digital lending. And third is bringing down the operating cost where smaller ticket size loans become feasible. So part of the reason why banks have stayed at 50 lakh or more ticket sizes of loans is because there is an operating cost to doing a loan. And as that operating cost goes down with adoption of digital technologies, we can start to do smaller and smaller loans in an affordable manner.
Okay, perfect. Coming now to you, Mr. Vishal. As an MSME, what are the main challenges and opportunities do you believe there are in the textile and garment sector, and how MSME in the textile sector can compete globally, especially in the face of changing global trade policies and supply chain disruptions?
So basically, like we are into textile industry since last 40 years, and we have seen many changes. Now the main problem that main challenges that we are facing is limited access to finance. Like cost of finance is more as compared when we have to compete globally. Our cost of finance is more. Our cost of electricity means that is also keeping our goods cost of goods a little bit high. On top of it, labor management and quality of labors that we are getting is not adequate as compared to other countries. If we speak about about China, our labor works more. Their timings are more than China labors, but the quality of work that they are doing is not adequate. So this problem we are facing, though there is lack of discipline, lack of proper labor laws. That is also a big problem that we are facing. The another thing is that we are not getting very skilled labor also. As in Surat, we are having around 1,200 people. But speaking about good quality of labors or good quality of skilled peoples, that way we are finding, because to compete in the global market, we need to have good quality, good educated people. So that is the biggest problem, though we are in a dry state. So that is another problem, because young generation, they usually want to parties after 6 and 7. So that is also the biggest problem that we are facing. And another problem, that freight corridors or freight and transportation, we are facing there also, because adequate proper channel or legitimate transportation system, we are not we are facing that problem as well. So these are the problem that we are facing. And marketing and branding also means we are unable to compete with global giants. So these are the problem that we are facing.
Okay. Mr. Ashish, uh, you represent an emerging segment, and which has a lot of MSMEs also in your segment. So I would like to ask you, MSMEs, including small brokers and developers, often face limited access to affordable credit due to strict collateral rules and high interest rates. On the other hand, we have the issue of inconsistent power, poor logistics, and land access. These are also major bottlenecks for MSMEs. So on the ground, what challenges crop up?
Sure. I'll try to cover what probably my fellow panelists have not covered, in a way, because uh, let me set a foundation. See, most of these businesses are the ones which have not probably have that kind of a competitive advantage, that they know that the scale is out there. That's the reason you are in MSME space. And if I create a persona of these businesses, it's very difficult to say for many sectors, but you will see that most of them have a working capital concerns, because most of these businesses are facing that issue if they want to grow. And at the same time, in that persona, you need to give credit to these business people, because they have fought hard for many years. I have just heard one of my fellow panelists building business for 40 years, and they have been able to survive, all the concerns which have got raised. So if I've set the foundation right, sir, and I take the next step, the access to quality capital is not there, and the kind of collaterals which are expected are definitely not what most of the MSMEs can afford. And while, like I said, if I'm operating at a certain size and I have to take up the next size, and the kind of employment we are generating, the kind of consistent growth we are generating, this capital is very, very important. So, it's a kind of a chicken and egg situation right now. I can go on and on. So I think on top of my mind in my sector, because of working capital issues, access to quality institutional capital is definitely a lot of issue. In fact, if I tell you for my sector, we do about 60 odd crore as a turnover. We have 300 plus employees. It's a 15-year-old business, but there's no formal product which any bank has for our business. So So yeah, many such things. And what we are doing as a large size brokerage is that we are trying to help the smaller brokerages to probably not get bottlenecked, and we are supporting them to go up the curve. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Now over to you, Mr. Christopher. Based on your experience across sectors, what are the most common hurdles faced by MSME founders in India, and how can they build resilience to overcome them?
Thank you for the question. So I'll talk about an area that my fellow panelists haven't spoken about while accepting to the perennial problems of access to finance and credit, and also talent acquisition and retention, which goes parallel across all industries. Um, our focus in our foundation has been in terms of helping new MSME startups, new startup founders get set up and get their revenue going. And we have a few of them who have completed 1 year or 2 years in their operations. And coming from a corporate world and looking at the large startup industry, how that's been working, and then bringing it down and looking at how at the MSME level, the companies that are being set up and the companies which are trying to learn and grow from there to the next level. Some of the common problems have one has been market access and competition, because not every business is necessarily a unique business, and some of these service industry businesses and these production industry businesses, it does not have to be unique businesses, but they still need to be able to operate in order to give the consumers the options as well. And navigating regulatory framework is still complex, even though the government has taken a lot of steps to make it easy. What's ended up happening is that navigating through that for um, for a literate level of a MSME businessman. When I mean literate level, it's not about their education, qualification, etc. It's about their level of comes to the next point in terms of technology adoption, digital transformation. All of that also needs to come up to a certain level for them to be able to then take advantage of uh, the technology framework that the government has put in to be able to link up to that, and being able to apply itself online still needs that little bit of help on the ground. But I feel that the MSME has been building a certain amount of resilience because of all these problems as well. Whether it is financial discipline and diversification because of that, agility and adaptability, agile way of working in technology, bringing that to project management in MSME production and project planning, strategic partnerships, and I mean, if we could encourage more leveraging of technology strategy from the larger corporate world to MSME also, that would be helpful. So seeing this resilience building also happening right now in order to compensate for these perennial problems that we've been having.
Alok, coming back to you. Your segment has undergone a significant transformation in the last few days, especially post-COVID. And what so I wanted to know from you what innovations in data analytics and alternative credit scoring are most promising for evaluating MSME credit worthiness, and how can these be scaled responsibly?
So I think there is two sides of the innovation that is happening, right? One is in making higher quality data accessible. So initiatives like account aggregator, for example, bring in a stream of data that was earlier not available. Or, if you were getting bank statement data, typically for NBFCs at least, not for the host bank, you would get it in form of, printed papers. There was scope for fraud. So I think those things have improved. Similarly, customer presence data is another piece of information that has been useful. Invoicing data through GST. So I think that is one whole side of the data spectrum, where availability of high quality data at scale starts to improve the ability to assess credit. The second is in the technologies that are available to process this data and draw conclusions. The AI-based credit scorecards have been there for a long time. However, as the AI technologies have evolved, those have moved from what are classically called as regression linear models to non-linear models, and increasingly now it starts to become more difficult to explain what that model is doing. But in the last few years, there has been progress around how do you take these decisions, but at the same time be able to explain those decisions so that you can avoid issues like hallucination. In fact, the regulator in their recent commentaries have emphasized explainability as one key factor that all of the decisioning models, credit decisioning models, must exhibit. So I think those kind of elements have started to layer upon top of the decisioning models to make sure that customers are being treated fairly, the models operate in a responsible manner, and there is some insight into why the decisions that are being taken are being taken.
And MSMEs have recently been suggesting to government that they should have something a CIBIL score, which should be a dedicated CIBIL score, which is especially catering to MSMEs. There should be another framework. What are your views on it?
Yeah, so I think that data is available out there. So the larger bureaus have a commercial bureau report that one can get from there. For players like us who tend to innovate on the credit models, that information is the key source. The score on top of that may or may not be consequential because we are kind of in some sense constructing our own evaluation scores by looking at the underlying data. But in the broader industry, there will be lenders who are looking at a score and lending, and there are some of these commercial bureau ratings that are available for that purpose.
Okay, now over to Mr. Vishal. What barriers do traditional textile MSME face in adopting new technologies, and how can industry associations or government programs can help players like you? Where are the gaps do you see?
So basically, the biggest gap is that automation and upgradation of machineries. What technology we have is not very adequate as compared to others. But though after this COVID and all, many upgradation is being done, but still many this subsidies and all, they are giving subsidies, but the process of getting subsidy and on time is not very fast. Means the government is not very adequate about that. So our cost of manufacturing is very high, and cost of adapting new technology is also very high. So we are lacking there, but still we are on it, and due to this our production is also getting increased. Another, our this chambers and the facility, the commerce, e-commerce and all, they are organizing programs regularly, but still to educate staffs and laborers, they don't have too many facilities. So this is the problem that we face.
Okay. Mr. Kukreja, Vishal touched upon this gap in tech adoption in MSMEs. So my second next question is related to that only. In your segment, many MSMEs lag behind in adopting automation, CRM tools, virtual tools, and digital selling due to cost and skill barriers. And so, what specific tech tools has your firm rolled out to help channel partners digitize and elevate your operations and their operations? Yeah.
So I think you've nailed it right. In our sector, in spite of being completely service-led and the adoption has been quite slow. Services offered, and if you compare the way this sector works in India as compared to many other countries out there, even we are very 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 behind in terms of adoption, and we have been trying. Our platform is trying to take this up. We are a mobile first tool for most of these small size brokers, where we give them access to CRM, we give them access to real time inventory, and a lot of digital walkthroughs as well. So the whole idea of creating this co-broking platform was to provide them digital tools, and kind of in a process, try to democratize the professional, tech-led brokerage business. It's a long journey. It's we know that it'll take many years, and many other forces also need to help us, in terms of the regulation and stuff like that. But we have not given up on that, and today on our platform we have over 15,000 odd small time mom and pop shop brokers who have access to these tools, and we are building them as we talk.
Uh, Christopher, how important is mentorship and talent development for MSME success? And what practical models have you seen work in India's diverse business landscape?
The mentorship and talent development is not just important, it's absolutely critical for MSMEs, especially given India's business landscape. They're the bedrock from where we can grow things on. So knowledge transfer is absolutely important. Having a mentor and having that knowledge transfer, giving strategic guidance, using a mentor to provide an organization strategic guidance is very absolutely important. Mentorship also leads into networking opportunities, which is very key for MSMEs business growth, and talent nurturing. It comes back to talent retention. So talent nurturing using a mentor does give a lot of benefit to MSMEs. See, but there are some practical models that are working in India. It's about how they can be fine-tuned and done further. Some are industry specific, some are cross industries as well. Just as similar as FICCI or CII and other such organizations, they provide a mentorship program themselves to the MSME industries. There are incubators and accelerators. I know that sometimes people get confused between incubators and accelerators, but accelerators from MSME perspective would help them to grow from the level they are to the next level. And a consultant type model is used in India, practically speaking, today. But technically, that's a mentorship that's being done. Peer-to-peer learning groups in the startup world are being very helpful in mentoring each other with learnings of each other. And skill development partnership. I know National Skill Development of India is doing a lot of work, and there are a lot of training institutes which have partnered up with them, but privately also a lot of IITs and polytechnics. You must have seen a lot of engagements, but that needs to increase more from a wider scale of MSME to academia engagement. Right now, that happens with large corporates and startup ideas. That's the engagement with academia. The MSME engagement with academia is not really much there at this point in time. But so that could be an area to extend into.
Perfect. Mr. Alok, post-COVID, the government has been doing a lot of things for pushing the fintechs and NBFC sector in the country. And it has seen the power and the potential of this segment in reaching out to the underbanked population of the country, especially the Bharat, the so-called Bharat that we know. In your view, what role should government and private partnerships play in expanding financial services to MSMEs, and what policy changes would accelerate that?
So, I think the response of the government machinery to MSME funding credits and growth credits can be more coordinated. Clearly we have seen some very good steps. For example, the emergency credit line facility that was introduced during COVID, the credit guarantee schemes that have been introduced and then in the last year budget have been enhanced. So those are some of the initiatives that have been taken to make sure that credit starts to penetrate deeper into the MSME world. At the same time, I think investments into the digital infrastructure for MSMEs could yield good results. So far, even if we look at the JAM Trinity, that has largely been focused on consumers at large, and the data infrastructure for MSMEs has lagged behind. So there is a proposal to set up, a data repository under RBIH that would cater to that. And initiatives like those would then complement the effect that credit guarantees are having. Similarly, the unsecured credit to consumers versus MSMEs has often been confused, and hence the same narrative has gotten applied to both of those. And I think that is something that needs to get nuanced in the policy discussions. So, for example, when the digital lending guidelines have come in, they're exactly the same for consumer lending and MSME lending. Whereas, for example, there is an overlay policy support towards cash flow based MSME lending. And these two are beginning to conflict with each other. So I do think that there is a lot of good initiatives on part of government that are happening. But better coordination between different implementing and regulatory agencies will ensure that that benefit reaches the small businesses.
Perfect. Sound good. Vishal, as a successful brand, I would like to know from you, okay, what are the effective ways for MSMEs in the textile sector to build a strong brand identity in both domestic and international markets?
So basically, to build a strong brand, the only thing that you need to have a good quality standard, because whatever the last speaks is quality. So to get the best quality, we need to have the best machineries, best infrastructure. So over the period of 40 years, we have seen many changes. Though the business was started by my father, but adapting new technologies time by time, we had been very fast in adapting new technologies, and we had got subsidies also. So due to that, we have got latest technologies, and we had been trying. But still, there are some portions where we are facing a little bit quality standards as compared to international market. Though India is also very huge market, and we are getting very good responses also. But if you want to get into a international market, we are not that competent as of now, so that we can compete China because of some quality standards and because of rates also.
Coming to you, Mr. Ashish. Are you working with partners or governments to simplify compliances for smaller real estate players? And how do you ensure MSMEs on your platform benefit from government schemes like Udyam and RERA?
Yeah, so I think a very important point you have raised again, in our sector, you know, forget about the schemes which government has come out with, even something like RERA, which is kind of a bedrock of this sector. Most of the smaller players are not having understanding of the important for them and why they should go about. Just recently, there is a education and examination system which has been put forward, but that is also even not taken seriously by most of the players. So we are creating a lot of awareness, a lot of understanding on the policies and benefits. We conduct a lot of sessions, and we are also becoming a kind of a, let's say, a medium between most of these independent brokers and RERA, for them to help take up these courses and benefits. So I think and other we have been also conducting a session on Udyam. So, but again, I would say that there is very I think there's a lot of scope there, and we are working towards it.
Yeah. Christopher, what lessons from other industries can MSME adopt to drive innovation and efficiency in their own businesses? You have had a experience, a cross industry wide experience. So, what will be your take on this?
So this I would actually base it on my personal experience, having scaled three successful companies so far, and having failed at multiple companies in the past. So from that learning, what I would say is break it down into pre-scale and then execution into two different parts. One is pre-scale would be validate validate, validate. There's enough data available. There's enough. So although it's a new idea, validate that idea. The second one would be to build a model that is scalable, build a model that could be a scalable business with scalable operations, use of leverage of technology. So leveraging digital technology, digital platforms aggressively at a much higher pace than before would be something very important. Another one would be global local thinking. That's I need to explain that even though you might plan to service a global customer base, you got to look at where you are and what is the input base that you have with which you're going to be able to deliver to that global customer base. And then strategic use of AI and automation. AI is not the solution to everything. Automation is not the solution to everything. As a MSME starts to innovate and set up first steps. One can't jump to AI without having described what needs to be done first. It's not a shortcut, right? And then understanding the nuances of regulatory just before you start getting into the first steps and second steps, because understanding how deep you'll have to go, how much time you'll have to take, and last in that front while you're building this company is very important. If you're getting into a 5-year plan before you start seeing revenue output of that, you need to start preparing for that now. So it's not something that you get into and then start fighting for that. And securing fund for growth. Typical MSMEs India do not always think as how startups work. It's funny that we keep talking about startups and MSME in two different buckets. MSME is a very much a startup by itself. You don't talk about it because it's just not a new idea, not necessarily a new idea to set all the time, right? So even for MSME, they have to think like how a startup founder works. That person is also a startup founder or a visionary. Even as family businesses just taken over, it's taken over with the vision of what needs to be done there. So there's a founder's vision always there. So it needs to be run that way, and hence then securing growth for fund and thinking about it from that manner also starts playing a major role. This is again based on personal experience and me looking at MSME and startup as both the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Alok, as the last question, I would like to ask, what will be your message to policymakers to push ease of doing business in your segment?
Yeah, with your permission, I just want to kind of endorse what Chris just mentioned. I think I have a fair bit of kind of background experience in the startup world, and then in Indifi, obviously, we address MSMEs. And you might have noticed that I use the word entrepreneur while describing MSMEs. And it has always occurred to me as being slightly strange that we separate these two words out. And in fact, I think the support ecosystem that is available for startups has developed much faster and is far more integrated than what is available for MSMEs. Right? So if you look at market linkage, financing, mentoring, there are several organizations that do that in an integrated fashion for startups. And I think that is something that might be worth considering, even, for example, by the associations, industry associations that are focused towards MSMEs. But coming back to your question on the ease of doing business, I think, again, a lot has been done already. While initiatives like GST initially faced a degree of slow adoption, but I think it has brought a lot of clarity in how to do business for MSMEs. As I mentioned earlier, some of the DPI activity around MSME specifically needs to get accelerated. Second, I think some of the market linkages that, for example, GEM has established can be built upon so that those are available across a broad range of industries and types of MSMEs, and not just on what the government procurement may end up being. Similarly, the TREADS framework for financing MSMEs for their bills is something that needs expansion downstream to make sure that smaller micro and small businesses can also benefit from it, and not just the medium-sized businesses. So I do think that extensive implementation of what is already out there and making sure that those initiatives start to include a larger number of MSMEs is perhaps the lowest hanging fruit for easing the growth path for MSMEs.
Sure, sure. Mr. Vishal, yours is a labor-intensive segment. The same question which I asked to Alok. What will be your message to policymakers to push ease of doing business in your segment? Beyond the funding, we have regulations and compliances and taxation also. So, what will be the key issues that you want policymakers to address?
One thing is that to ease the labor law, because our labor law is very task oriented and very anti employer. So we need to understand this perspective. And the another thing that need to be limited, limit of what we have is limited access of finance, and the cost of finance, we need to reduce that.
Sure. In case of labor laws, are you part of any association which has highlighted your case or the voice of players like you to the government?
Yeah, we are a member of South Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industries, the biggest apex body of Surat, and another is FOSTA. So we have raised our voice over there also.
Okay.
So they are working on it.
I hope that you find some solution soon. Mr. Ashish, international real estate markets often have a streamlined land registry, digital property transfer system, and MSME-friendly policies. So, based on your experience in Dubai, what globally followed best practices in terms of digital registry, ease of investment, transparent pricing, that you believe that these things can be localized in India to empower MSMEs? What template that we can draw from them?
Absolutely. One big reason that this sector does pretty well in those markets is because there's a lot of enablement, and for them to focus on the core part of their work and not on things which are, making them inefficient. And stuff like digital land registries and, a lot of these, one single window, activities, especially in markets like Dubai, there's a lot of transparency, which, also leads to belief and trust on the sector, which is not there in this country even today. So I think the whole tech led real estate infrastructure is a big miss in Indian perspective. And I think there's a lot to be done in this space. I can go on and on, and you go to, in countries like US, you do a transaction, you sit in a room and everything is done in 10 minutes. You don't have to do 5 different agreements and so on and so forth. You just enter, you do transaction and come out, and that's it. That's it. So I think we have a lot to catch up.
Sure, sure. Mr. Christopher, lastly, what advice would you offer to MSMEs looking to scale innovative ideas nationally or globally, considering India's unique regulatory and market challenges?
Well, there is no black and white answer for that, right? One will have to study how the government is changing ease of business standards and understand policymakers, etc. But you can't expect MSME entrepreneurs to be doing all of that, right? So one could take the advantage of how other industries have solved for different things and solve for that in India. Say, for example, a risk management framework, as complicated it might sound in the banking industry, could be a simple framework in MSME to follow to manage their day-to-day risks. From technology and e-commerce, it could be agile methodologies used in software development that could be used in any kind of product development in the MSME market. Customer-centric UI UX design that's used in technology and e-commerce could be used when designing any product. Data-driven now with AI, and AI adoption is also going to give us a lot of knowledge in terms of how it's been done and how it could be approached now. Now that's based on how much adoption. So it's going to be a journey. I don't think it could be a clear answer on
Okay.
how we transform and grow
To a
through this journey.
customized solution, and depending on the strength and weaknesses of that particular company.
Correct. Your company and the industry and its timing and where it's placed.
Mhm. Any other relevant point, and if you like to add here, highlight here around the broader MSME ecosystem, any solutions or challenges that you want to highlight? Any of you? Okay.
So if I could add
yeah,
a
Ashish.
couple of more points, right? Maybe
Yes.
thought that what we missed out on. One could be green finance, sustainable growth. Things like that are very important to MSME as well. And these kind of segments have not opened up. These are purely accessible through digital fronts and things like that. But I think as entrepreneurs read and educate themselves more, they would be able to find access to some of these specialized funds and support that is available as well.
Perfect. So thanks everyone for your time, for giving us such actionable and honest perspectives. We hope that the discussion held today proves useful to the wider industry community.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
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 Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm your host, Ashish Pandey, and I welcome you all to today's webinar on the subject, how to run a profitable and sustainable SME. As we all know, that SMEs are key drivers of innovation and employment, but they do face some challenges. There are some pressing challenges, and the challenge of balancing profitability with sustainability stands out. This dual imperative requires SMEs to navigate financial viability while ensuring long-term sustainability. In today's world, marked by climate challenge, resource constraints, and shifting consumer expectations, building a green and viable business model is essential and non-negotiable. So it is crucial for long-term success and sustainability of SMEs. That is why we have brought together here 4 exceptional business leaders who are doing just that in their respective domains. To discuss this subject today, we have here with us Jitendra Singh, is VP and Head of R&D at AquAgri. Then we have Divya Chandra, is Managing Director, Atul Greentech. We have Vaibhav Kaushik, is co-founder and CEO, Nawgati. And then we have Rahul Nainani, is CEO and co-founder, ReCircle. Gentlemen, once again, welcome to the webinar. Thank you all for participating. I'll start with you, Jitendra. Since you have built something, your company AquAgri, around sustainable aquaculture, that's the model that you people have developed over the years. I want to understand from you, in form of a concrete example, one concrete example that you can share, how have you balanced environmental impact with cost efficiency?
As an AquAgri, as you know, we are in the domain of biostimulant production. By cultivating the seaweed, it's a potential seaweed, it's in the coastal area of Tamil Nadu. At AquAgri, one clear example of the balancing environment is towards it with cost efficient is utilization of our seaweed source through sustainable manner, aquaculture practices. Traditionally, the underutilized biomass with the developed energy efficient extraction process, we convert this seaweed into the biostimulant potash rich fertilizer, which is under FCO. Using spray drying technology, we are saving the energy and creating the environment in such a way so that we can reduce the carbon footprint and also providing the farmers a cost effective natural agri input which can save the high energy consumable chemical fertilizers. So especially under stress condition, because of the nowadays the climate changes is the major things of every farmers are facing. So for this seaweed, the farmer can easily adopt this and reduce the climate changes effect over the crops.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. Divya, I'll come to you now. Jitendra talked about sustainability, an aspect of sustainability. And of course, there was technological innovation that he just touched upon. I want to just take it forward from here to you. I want to understand from you, Divya, what role does tech innovation play in making sustainability both achievable and, of course, cost effective? What are your views?
Yeah, thank you, Ashish, for the question. I'll give you some brief about my work, as I come from the mobility background. And as you are aware, mobility, particularly electric mobility, is at the forefront of the technological innovation. As you see today, the mobility plays a big role in everyone's life, especially in the era of e-commerce, where last mile mobility and last mile delivery are the big things of our life. Every day we are directly, indirectly connected with these two things, mobility and delivery. So talking about technological evolutions or innovations, how it has shaped us. You just see the cost of commute with the traditional IC engine vehicles and their impact. And with the change of this innovation, mobility, we see how it is going down, how it is impacting the environment, how governments are promoting the use of sustainable technological evolutions. To answer your question on innovation in sustainability, it plays a very big role. As a company, I have to always ensure that we have efficient use of energy, materials, and labor. With this technological evolution, it should be able to improve the life of both, the user as well as the company which are into it. This also helps, to reduce your cost, to reduce the waste in your system. So the innovations, I would say, is a key part of every company. Every company have to innovate themselves to be cost efficient as well as feature efficient. Whatever the best practices are getting adopted in the industry, that has been the result of technological evolution or innovation. So that's how, as a company, we try to adopt and try to compete others and stay more and more efficient on day-to-day basis.
That's interesting, Divya. You mentioned about the role of innovation and technology, then you clubbed it up with the impact on society, or we can say social impact in a way. I'll now come to you, Vaibhav. We know about Nawgati and it promotes sustainable livelihood. So, like what Divya mentioned, he mentioned about the social impact of the technology and the innovation thing. Now, what I want to understand is if you can share one initiative that both empowered local entrepreneurs and also generated profit at the same time. Can you share some examples, or what is your viewpoint on what I mentioned?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me here. So Nawgati, as you know, is operating in the oil and gas sector, right? So we're trying to digitize the fuel stations across the country. And one of the most impactful initiatives that we've been doing for fuel stations is primarily empowering the petrol pump dealers and station attendants with our digital tools using our proprietary AquAgri platform. So what we are doing is we're essentially automating compliance, monitoring congestion, and digitizing the transaction records. So what this helps is sort of plugs in the leakages, improves the throughput, and also boosts the profitability on every outlet basis. Because if this leads to a minimization in the pilferage at the outlet level, it will enhance the profitability of every outlet. What we've also started doing is that we're trying to enable the micro entrepreneurs. So you know that across more than 85,000 outlets across the country, most of these pumps are actually owned by micro entrepreneurs, right? So they're setting up CNG stations, EV charging stations across the country. So the objective is to use Nawgati's consumer-facing app as well as the AquAgri platform to upsell additional non-fuel revenue activities and services that will increase the income for these sort of entrepreneurs, right? And the objective would be to keep enhancing the customer experience, and at the same time, create a self-sustaining business model for all of the people who are associated with the AquAgri platform. So we believe in empowering them through the digital initiatives that Nawgati is providing them, and also to reduce the pilferage that is happening at the outlet level, because when you buy a vehicle, maximum amount of money is actually spent on fueling, right? So be it the fleet operators, be it the people at the outlet, all of them want to enhance transparency that comes through Nawgati's platform. So this is how we've been helping them.
Okay, fair enough. Rahul, coming to you now. Kept you waiting for long. But my question is, we know ReCircle works toward the circular economy, and of course, it supports sustainable businesses through ERP and other solutions. What I want to understand from you is, what practical steps can SMEs take in this sector to not only reduce the environmental footprints and also to generate cost efficiency when we talk about the sustainability side?
Firstly, thanks, Ashish, for having me on the panel as well. It's a very interesting question, and I feel that when businesses, especially SMEs, look at sustainability on the P&L side and sustainability on the environment side, they try and look at these two questions in very different looks. They generally look at sustainability in the P&L, which is most often looked after by entrepreneurs. But on the environmental side and building it in, I think that the core idea, especially when you're done with how do you build environmental sustainability and try and build that at the core of your business itself. And we've seen this with multiple organizations that when you're small, you're able to adapt these changes much quicker as compared to when you become large enough. It's a higher cost to switch from alternatives into sustainable alternatives. And there have been multiple cases and multiple instances where you're seeing that, let's say, moving from petrol to electric vehicles is definitely, there's a cost saving. My previous panelists also mentioned that as well. Again, the work that we work in is in terms of plastic waste management and circularity. And here, while of course recycling is one of the areas, but the first principle of circular economy is to reduce. And by reduction, we have seen businesses reducing their packaging, which in turn leads to reduction in cost at their direct and indirect cost level, and thereby increasing profitability. So the mindset which most entrepreneurs have, that sustainability, moving to a sustainable alternatives is most often expensive, is probably not the right mindset to have. If you build sustainability in the core of your business itself and start working it from scratch, you'll start seeing that it can be incorporated in a long-term perspective and actually work towards cost saving and increasing profits as compared to just looking at it as a cost center for the business. So there are multiple instances that businesses have taken up, but this is what comes to me. I think the primary idea is to look at sustainability, financial sustainability to go hand in hand with environmental sustainability, and bring sustainability as the key in your business mindset itself, and try and incorporate that into your values as compared to looking at it as an afterthought where most people think
that. Fine. Dr. Singh, I'll come to you now. Rahul mentioned a very key word while he was answering the last question of mine. He said something about mindset. My next question to you is somewhat related to mindset when it comes to scalability of operations. Since you have scaled the operations in a big way in the past few years, what I want to understand is what kind of organization changes, sir, you think are necessary to maintain both eco-integrity and, of course, profitability is the main thing. What are your views on the same?
While scaling the operations, we initially recognize that there is need to institutionalize our sustainability into the core our decision making. So this sustainability we have taken as a core decision making in all the aspects, either production side or any training part. So this lead to the creation of the sustainability, and we also compliances of the sales within our R&D system, R&D division, because we have a strong R&D division with a DSIR registered R&D division for the production of our seaweed, providing the seaweed good quality planting material to our fisher women and fisher community. We mandate this access of life cycles impact and monitoring the carbon and water footprint, and side ensuring that product development remains eco-compliant and scalable. So this is our core decision we have taken. We also decentralize our operation by establishing satellite processing hubs near raw materials. So we are procuring this raw material by using digital way, and for transportation, we're reducing the transport emission and empower our local people of Tamil Nadu, especially the 4 districts we have identified, this coastal area of this Ramanathapuram and Tuticorin area, and empower our local ecosystem, both environmentally and economically. That is our core competency in sustainability in our whole organizations.
Dr. Singh, what you essentially said is R&D plays a very important role, of course, in this.
Yes, everything, because change is need of hour.
Need of the hour, and
so
we need to.
Because of the climate change, we find that the efficiency of the germplasm is not working well. Therefore, we have established one micro propagation plant so that we can create the vigor plantlets for our fishermen and nearby area, so that we can increase the scalability of our all the fisherwomen and improve the productivity of all the fisherwomen, so that they can connect with us for a long time.
Okay, fine. Divya, coming to you now. In the first round, we discussed about the innovation thing. Then we also discussed about scalability. Now, Dr. Singh mentioned about the important role that R&D plays in scalability of operations. I want to ask from you, that is all fine about the scalability of the operations and all. Why don't you tell us something about what should be the areas of focus? Means, for example, if there's some new SME, what will your lesson to them be about identifying and prioritizing which sustainability areas to invest in, given the constraints of time that they have, also the cost that they have?
Yeah, Ashish, so scaling is one part, and the question what you are saying on identifying which sustainable innovation or the project that has to be chosen. So there are a couple of things. First, always, as you know, any sustainable solution has to be profitable to take it forward. Second, to make any sustainable solution profitable, you need to have the basics or fundamentals right. For example, the ecosystem, the supply chain of those parts. Either those parts have to be easily available, or there has to be the provision by the government where that ecosystem can be evolved or developed in a certain period of time. Third, the skill. You should be able to identify a solution where the skill set in terms of knowledge, people should be easily available. It should not be that you are dependent on external world or overseas countries to get things that may have adverse impact in case there is change in policy by the government. Last and most important is any sustainable solution, what you pick has to be agile. It should be able to quickly adapt new requirements set by the government or as per customer expectation, both commercially as well as technically. It should be feasible that you should be able to turn around things quickly in case your chosen sustainable solution demand new changes in it. So with this, you should also take care that the solutions, you need to have multiple version of it. Some solutions are same solutions are working in certain part of a country, and that might not be the right for other part of the country. So keeping fundamentals right, I think you should be able to pick the right sustainable, scalable solution for your business.
Hmm. Uh, uh, Vaibhav, coming to you, what you heard so far, we talked about the technology, innovation, all the things, but we also know that for SMEs, transformation in terms of technology is a daunting task. You will agree to it. Since you have been into this domain for quite some time now, why don't you tell us something about in terms of Nawgati leveraging the mobile platforms or technology in terms of data analytics, which may help the companies to scale up their revenue?
So very interesting question because you know change is always very difficult, right? And considering that oil and gas energy sector is still in the very nascent stages of being digitized, right? Digitalized, right? So it is a very challenging task, but in fortunately for Navgati's case, my co-founders and we have built Navgati to be a plug and play solution from day one, right? So we ensure that our app is mobile first, right? So combining the app as well as the AI driven analytics that we provide on the existing assets that are there at the station premises, this really empowers the petrol pump operators or the fuel companies to digitize without actually having to deploy, say, a high end infrastructure. Whatever is there can be digitalized using Navgati's technology. So that is where we are sort of ensuring that the transition for them is very seamless. They don't have to, as you rightly mentioned, it is very difficult for them to transition. But because of our plug and play infra, we are able to do that for them because what we are able to do is that we are able to do the entire detections using computer vision, make all of it available on the AquAgri dashboard uh, in a very simple manner, right? So if say somebody who's not very educated, think of it from the consumer side of things. The people who are using our app are primarily CNG drivers across the country, right? So the UI that we've built is very simple for them to engage with, right? They don't have to take a tutorial to understand how it works, right? Even on the fuel operator side of things, for them it is blended into their day-to-day operations so that they don't really have to learn something else, deploy high-end systems, or sort of take some expert classes just to know how the tech is working. So we've sort of toned it down to the level integrated with their existing systems that they don't really see any difficulty or inertia. When it comes to sort of changing the way that they're operating. So I would advise that for anyone who's trying to work in sectors that are not really digitalized, they should actually focus on making that transition as seamless as possible, right? Because that is how the uptake will come.
I guess you're right. The other day I was discussing with some of the AI experts, and what I was discussing was actually about we have got AI solutions in the country. Just to put some example in front of you, gentlemen, we have many solutions in front of us for the SMEs particularly. But what they were telling was we need to have a customized solution. You can't have a single solution for all the SMEs. Maybe we have some solutions which are very successful over the years. Maybe they are serving the purpose of the large organizations, but when it comes to SMEs, we need to have a kind of desi solution for desi AI. I guess what you said is very much on the similar lines. Well, Rahul, I'll come to you. We talked about everything about the innovation aspect, about the technology, how to scale the operations, and we've just mentioned about the technological aspect in some different ways, how it may help the SMEs, how we need to take the solutions to the companies, make them understand what to do and what not to do. Now I'm coming to the very important part, that's financing, and financing is core of the every challenge. I want to understand from you, Rahul, what kind of challenges in terms of financing or when it comes to scaling sustainability initiatives in particular. You may have come across all these things in your career so far. Why don't you take us through some of the challenges in terms of financing when we talk about the sustainability initiatives for the SMEs particularly?
I think very interesting question, Ashish. So we've been in the space of waste and circular economy for almost 9 years now. So launched in early 2016. And we went through this exact challenge that you were mentioning when back in 2016, when we launched clean tech, circular economy as sectors did not even exist. The terminology of circular economy even was not even existence when we launched in 2016. This is more so recent where investors and financing options have opened up in the last 4 5 years, and there are more and more investors now looking at clean tech and sustainability and circular economy. And within sustainability, because it's such a wide domain, we've seen that a lot of money has gone into the EV and the solar sector, but when it comes to waste and circular economy, there's barely any money that's come in. So obviously, initially when we launched, it was a big challenge to go on and raise funding to grow our businesses. So what we initially did is that while we launched as a B2C business to start with, but we pivoted very soon to a B2B first business, realizing that we need to make this business profitable itself. And most likely B2C business models require a lot of burn capital, and that capital was not very much available during that period of time. So our first strategy was to conserve cash and move to a profitable business model and work towards larger. And waste also comes from a domain where you need to do large volumes of waste, then only you're going to make a business viable. So one of the first things that we did is that we worked towards moving away from our B2C business, pivoting to a B2B first business, and making sure that we are bottom line positive in all transactions that we end up doing, which actually helped us go through that initial phase when the sector did not even exist, or we were in a way early in the market. Post that, we did a couple of things that actually helped us finance our operations and actually helped us grow as well. The first thing that we did is, while the VC and the private equity money was not available in the sector, but there was a lot of foundation and grant money that was available, which so we worked with and we partnered with organizations like United Nations Development Program. We worked with GSMA, UK Aid, DBS Foundation, multiple foundations, global and Indian, that actually helped us finance the new innovative work that we were trying to do during our process. Because while we had one area where we were looking at growing the business, but we also required capital to actually build towards what is to be done over the next few years. So one of the areas that we did venture into was to look at how we can garner grants and philanthropical capital to actually help us in terms of scaling up our business. The second that we also found out was that the government actually has multiple schemes under which they are able to finance different MSMEs and SMEs in the business itself. One of the areas we realized that we require working capital. So for working capital under the CGT SME scheme, which is a credit guarantee scheme for small and medium businesses, we were able to get working capital, finance our working capital through the bank without collateral, backing it by our debtors and stock. Again, a very innovative way. Again, another initiative that most SMEs probably don't know about. But apart from the CGT SME, there are multiple other schemes under which SMEs can actually go out there and get funding from the government itself through these various initiatives, either in the form of debt or in the form of grant, or either or in that sense. So we have garnered the initiatives that are running by the government, try and finance ourselves through that, while of course making a cash flow positive business. And then having built some scale and value in the business over the last few years, we were also then being able to grab attention of equity investors when the industry actually matured. It takes time to build, so you need to plan for the long term and ensure that you have enough cash flows, either by making sure your business is profitable or being able to find unique and innovative ways to finance your business through the process.
That's interesting point. The things that you touched upon. Just wanted to know from you, how are the things on ground now? You mentioned there were times when the government funds were the main source of funds for the startups and the SMEs. Just want to take a guidance from you. In case I'm taking my sustainability model to the market, how may I raise the funding? Or also, when I'm positioning my company as SME, not a startup, do you think there's some kind of a difference in terms of how the VCs see startups and SMEs? Because not
I
most
think
companies want to position them as SMEs. Maybe they are more comfortable when we are talking them as startups. I guess you will agree with me on this.
Yeah, so I think every startup is an SME, but every SME is not a startup.
Right, great. Yeah.
So, positioning in terms of when you go to equity investors, I would, at least in my head, the primary difference between a startup and an SME is that innovation is where it comes into play. Technology where it comes into play is where when you look at startups, and when there is a traditional business that's running as a legacy business, you could look at it as an SME. But an SME can bring in innovation and reposition themselves as a startup. But while positioning to investors is important, but the core of it lies into building a business model that actually works. You can go out there and make fancy decks and position yourself as however you would like to. But if your business fundamentals are not right, I don't think that, today, equity investors in our country, it's been almost a decade since almost that equity investments has been happening, a little bit more than that, in fact. So while initially you might see investors not as, accustomed to how businesses work, but now investors have also become extremely smart. I think while positioning is important, but the real innovation and the business model is what will help you go the long distance as compared to the short term burst in terms of.
Ultimately, it's still about the fundamentals.
Absolutely.
I guess Vaibhav more than anyone agrees to what you answered right now. Okay, I'll move on to Dr. Singh now, sir. What I want to understand is we know collaboration plays a very important role in terms of systemic sustainability. Your organization, AquAgri, has engaged with partners in the past. They are still doing. We have also some examples of your companies partnering with the local communities, sir. How do you work with small farmers, especially with the small land holdings or small resources that they have? Please take us through this thing, sir.
Yeah, actually, AquAgri is working almost since last 20 years with more than 1,200 coastal family who's basically involved in the fish and some cultivation of the seaweed and collecting the seaweed from the coastal area belt. And we have built a relationship by adopting some dedicated field team so that they can engage all these family members in such a way so that they can. Recently, I would like to say one small story, success story, you can say, come from the long term, the relationship between these coastal family members and our teams, which fisherwomen created a self-help group. This self-help group is, we have connected the self-help group with the micro credit linkage program with some small bankers. So they have started their livelihood very well. And now the second generation has come and they have established very strong relationship with her. And now they are participating with the seaweed farming and participating in our supply chain. This initiative help stabilizing our income in climate vulnerable communities while ensuring a consistent traceability and sustainable harvested raw material. So the raw material which we are requesting for him, they are collecting for us. So based on our requirements, they are willing to give us only this, because we have ensuring him that we are only procuring all the items which we have provided to as a plantlets to him. So all the people are engaged with us. The engagement is basically by our dedicated field team. This dedicated field team continuously organizing some social responsibility activities with him, like some social health checkup and providing some infrastructure to them in their villages. So this created a lot of faith with AquAgri team, and the self-help group. The success of this self-help group, we are also going to implement in some other area as well. That is our major success.
So you mentioned about self-help groups and how these are changing the things on ground in terms of agriculture via your company's model. I want to just wanted to know which are the states that you have covered so far across the country. Major example, major
Yeah,
names that you want to take.
majorly we are only working in Tamil Nadu,
Okay.
but recently we have expanded this up to Sri Lanka
Okay.
recently, and in Gujarat we have collaboration with one of the big Pidilite, this Pidilite company. So the Pidilite is some social activities they are doing in Gujarat. So we are also started some activities in Gujarat as well.
Okay. Okay. Divya, now coming to you. Sorry, kept you waiting again for long, but wanted to understand, Divya, can you share some examples about when you shifted to some circular economy process, for example, waste to resource, and it made a big difference to your bottom line. Can you share some example around this thing?
Yeah.
Also, one more thing I wanted to know, just to add on to this question, how did you measure it in terms of return on investment? If you can also throw some light on that.
Yeah, certainly. If you take electric vehicles today, right? They have this lithium-ion battery packs, and these lithium-ion battery packs are like a major part of the vehicle cost, and they certainly have life in terms of cycles. The charge discharge, you do it over the period, and then the efficiency of those battery packs goes on deteriorating with the usage and with the time. So in the circular economy, I think the best example is use of those battery packs from the vehicle for other applications. Let's say energy storage. So today, even government is pushing industry to have this circularity of the material. So if you reuse those battery packs in other applications, that will save a lot of cost for both the companies. The new application as well as the parent application. So that is the biggest example today where the battery recycling is going to be a big business in the circularity, and I think a lot of investments and government are in line to promote this reuse of the battery packs. Second best example is what we know today, the vehicle itself. Normally you see people buy new cars, and over the time they sell it. So same way, the reuse of car and the components are in big demand today. That reduces the cost of the ownership, cost of the vehicle. On top of it, even for cars business also, government is pushing people to have this scrappage policy where they try to scrap the car and reuse the material such as the metal and other recoverable items for making of new cars. So this way, automobile have lot many elements which can be reused, recycled, and I think automobile industry has been a good example for recycle and circularity overall, and it is a big chunk of the nation. When you see automobile as a whole, whatever you take, rubber, plastic, metal, batteries, it is in a big scale, which can be reused and recycled, and that can really make less dependent on other supply chain from other countries. Recently, you are aware that there is China has put a ban on the magnets, which is rare earth magnets, and they are not available anywhere. And now government is also putting a scheme where you should able to recycle those magnets from the automobile application, and that element should be used again to manufacture new ones. So recycling and circularity is a most important aspect today in terms of technology, in terms of supplies, in terms of cost. So I think it cannot be ignored. It is as essential as the technological innovation. It's
Divya, the second part that I asked about how to measure the return on investment. Very interesting that thing you mentioned about the China thing. That
yeah.
the government has asked for the recycling, and for example, there's a company and it decides to do that. What the government has said. What are the metrics? Well, if you can tell something about the metrics that on basis of return of investment, it will be deciding whether it will be profitable or not that profitable. Of course, there are many other metrics also to decide on this thing. What are the basic things that the company should look at when deciding on
Right.
things like that?
Very good question. When you talk about return on investment on new things, they are always, slightly complex. There is no
Of course.
straight measurement of what you invest and what you get. But in today's scenario, especially after COVID, when you see this recycling have its own what you call importance in a way. I'll give you some examples of what we have witnessed. Right after COVID period, there was a great demand of semiconductors and all the electronics that become very expensive. Again, because of supply chain issues, global. Then came this the battery itself, where we saw a big rise in the price, and then eventually now it is falling down. The battery price. Third, today what we see is this magnets. It is getting more and more critical at the moment to run your production lines, because in the absence, there won't be any production. So to in terms of return of investment, if you think it is really about timing. Let's say if the recycling cost you 10% return, and 90% is still waste. But in times where your production is zero, even that 10% will be a big part of your cost. Similarly, if you talk about the battery packs itself today, I mean, as a country, we don't have any lithium sources or any refinement to get this lithium extracted from the application. So if there is a case that other countries refuse to supply us this core material, in that way the recycling will have a big value. Today you seem like there is no value, but let's say in 2 years you have a recycling unit built and there is the no supply from other country. In that scenario, your return of invest would be in multiple times. So but I think I've answered you, but not.
You are right. What you essentially said. Also, I'll add on to this myself. When we, I guess, talk about return on investment, I guess not always the short-term returns that we have to think about. Being an SME, there are always returns, but it may take time. But those returns may be foolproof returns. Maybe we need to keep in mind that 5 to 10 years down the line, we are making a model that will pay us for the coming 30 to 40 years. I guess what you essentially wanted to say through this. Yes. Okay, Vaibhav, I'll come to you now. Divya wonderfully explained about the thing about the cost benefit analysis. We talked about the ROI, different aspects that you heard. Of course, a company SME, when it talks about the sustainability initiatives, that's fine. It's adopting to the models. That's great. Because ultimately it is the future. Every one of us knows about this. The only thing that I have in my mind is how do you measure or track these sustainability initiatives? What kind of impact it is having? How do you measure that? There's some kind of formula, or you are a seasoned player, you can tell. What do you think? Okay, just tell your own observation.
In terms of identifying the impact of sustainability initiatives, Navgati is operating in a very, very different sector, as opposed to the other panelists here. So, our way of measuring it will be very, very different as opposed to how everyone else does. But we usually look at three primary areas, which is reduction is in fuel wastage through congestion management. So, if people are not waiting in queues, the idle time in the when they're waiting in front of these stations is reduced. So that is something that we quantify. The other thing is we optimize serve time inside the station. So when we have an end-to-end fueling solution at the fuel stations, we reduce the time it takes for a vehicle to actually get filled, right? Say at a petrol pump or a CNG station. So that is again, time that is saved, fuel that is saved. Otherwise, that would have been combusted at the station level, right? And then one very important factor is the transition to cleaner fuels, which is enabled by a smarter fuel discovery, right? So in terms of say petrol, diesel outlets, they're there across the country, but CNG and EV charging infra is still picking up, right? CNG is there at about I think 97% of the geographical area of the country, but still people want to know where the station is the fuel available, and for EV charging stations it will still take some time to pick up, right? So when you actually provide the users with an information that this is where the fuel stations are, this is the fuel availability, then it sort of gives them a comfort to transition to a cleaner fuel vehicle, right? So as Divya ji was mentioning that government is pushing heavily on scrapping old vehicles. Think of it as transitioning to an EV vehicle or a CNG vehicle. Every state government is coming up with EV policies, CNG policies. So that is to transition from MSHSG to a CNG or an EV or maybe an hydrogen based hydrogen powered vehicles. So, our entire platform using the controllers that we deploy at stations, the GIS-based congestion mapping that is happening for the stations, and the analytics that we are providing to quantify wait times, serve times, turnaround times for these stations, has been able to, generate grassroots level impact for these stations across the country. So we see that once people transition to a mixed mobility future, when they don't have to worry about the wait times at fuel stations, I think that the impact that we're targeting will then sort of peak, right? So it'll take some time, but I think we're getting towards that.
Great. Okay, Rahul, you heard Vaibhav shared his 3-point mantra. Was it 3-point Vaibhav or 4-point?
3 points.
3 point. Okay. He wonderfully articulated what I asked him. I'll come to you with some different question. I'm talking about the cost overruns on the green projects. It happens, and we have got many examples in front of us where we have seen cost overruns for the projects, green projects. What you can tell us, what specific steps do you think a company can take when caught in such a situation to realign it? Such cost overruns with this profitability targets? You have some kind of mantra like what Vaibhav gave us?
I don't think there's a simple mantra to overturn cost overruns. Just from my example, I think what you can be prepared with is that we right now in the process of setting up our own manufacturing unit as well as we speak. And we're going through the same issue. You have a certain budget that you allocate to set up a manufacturing unit, and it's likely you'll realize that there is going to be a cost.
Rahul, you're not very clear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's fine, I guess.
So, we're going through this process ourselves, and I think that there is obviously we also had a budget in mind, but we are running over in terms of our budget that we had allocated. Now, a couple of, I think, things that we have tried to keep in mind is one is that, of course, build in these cost overruns and scenarios in your business model to ensure that, if there is a 10%, 20% overrun or an underrun, how does this impact the business at large? So at least you are prepared in terms of what is going to happen. Second is that also be transparent. If you have external investors on your cap table, I think be transparent in terms of if there have been these issues or these challenges that are coming up, so that they are up to speed and it doesn't come off as a shock to them going forward in the second stage as well. And the third is that I think this is a primary thumb rule, which I would say for any entrepreneur running an SME or a startup, it may be, is to make sure that you have enough cash flow in the bank. Even you might have up days and down days, and you might have years or a year where probably your profitability or target might not be met in that specific financial year. But having cash in the bank and ensuring you have enough reserves and surpluses will help you navigate through these cost runs and be able to optimize this in the long term. As an entrepreneur, I think it's been said multiple times that we are not in a sprint but a marathon. So, keeping in mind that you might be missing the race in the first slot, but it's a long race ahead and it's a marathon ahead. So, making sure that you have enough cash in the bank, making sure you have enough, you know, provisions in your business model to navigate these cost overruns would be something that you should be prepared with as an entrepreneur. But I don't think that there's a simple bullet which will say that if you had projected X and you've gone X plus 20%, how do you navigate that in terms of your profitability? At least we haven't been able to identify it, but I'd love to see if there's some formula that comes in to make sure that if you have an overrun which is unplanned, how do you make sure that it impacts your bottom? How do you make sure that it doesn't impact your bottom line in that financial year? But I think from my point of view is that simply look at it as a long term and make sure that you have enough cash in the bank to manage this piece of overrun that comes into regular business.
Great. Rahul tells us always keep cash in your bank in case you face some rainy weather going ahead. Okay, gentlemen, coming to the last question, I want you to briefly answer it and then we will close our conversation. My question, sir, Dr. Singh, I'll start with you. Just briefly, sir, please, what will be your message to policymakers to improve sustainability focus in your domain?
This is the major threat we have facing regularly from the policymaker. We have involved in with the policymaker, especially with the Ministry of Fisheries, for making the policy in such a manner so that everyone can grow and cultivate this seaweed from the coastal area. Some of the part is strictly prohibited by the government of local authority. That is we are facing. So any such things we are directly involved with this ministry, because the policymakers are still believing that this is the seaweed. Some of the seaweed are invasive, but still we are struggling to grow this species. Especially we're talking about the one red seaweed, that is Kappa ficus, which is not invasive, but still some of the government, especially in the Mannar coastal area, people are not allowing us to grow. Only some specific area they are allowing to grow this specific variety, because this variety is highly demanded for the food industry as a carrageenan production, and most of the carrageenan we are procuring from the other countries. So this is the high demand, and we are still working with the ministry and cooperating with them and promoting that. We have also collaborating with the R&D facility they have developed, but they are not doing so much. But we are collaborating for the R&D with them, especially in some university, fisheries university, Jayalalitha Fisheries University. We have developed our micro propagation plant at their premises. So we are also training to their students and creating the manpower for this industry. So this is the major threat. All the governments should make such policy so that the people can utilize their coastal area for cultivation of such seaweeds.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Divya, your 2 cents?
Yeah, our request to policymakers will be that instead of giving incentives or benefits as a demand aggregation to the end user, the policies has to be such that the investments or the government support comes in the development of ecosystem, be it supply chain or R&D or developing skills in the country. That's where the policy has to be there, and then to promote the circular economy models where the dependency of our country reduces over the period with the development of the solutions along with the government policy. So that would be our message.
Vaibhav, you can
Yeah,
quickly
yeah.
suggest some.
So for Nawgati, I think the government has really taken the first bet through various schemes, maybe Startup Hub, Department of Science and Technology, Startup India scheme. So a lot of capital has been infused in Nawgati through various government schemes because the sector that we're operating in is relatively untapped. So we need somebody to take that early bet that Rahul also mentioned. So the schemes, the grants really help when the equity infusion sort of takes a little bit time. In terms of the overall message to the policymakers, I think that India is in a very very unique position, and we have a unique opportunity to lead the world in tech-driven sustainability. So my message is that you have to continue fostering, innovation through a supportive mechanism. We feel that not just giving some subsidies, but we think that it should be through a public-private partnership that things can go forward in this direction, and it should be a little bit, in terms of a simpler compliance for people setting up, companies that promote sustainability in some or the other fashion. I think that that has changed in the past decade, to a certain extent, where a lot of states are coming up with their own policies at least in the mobility automotive segment, that they're pushing for change in this sector. And I feel that if the goals are aligned and we have a shared data infrastructure, startups like Nawgati can definitely accelerate the transition to a cleaner, smarter future for the country and globally.
Great. Rahul, you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, sure. I think my previous panelists have made very interesting points, but specifically for our sector and ReCircle, I think while waste and plastic waste management, there's a lot of policy and movement that has created markets for the entire industry in our sector itself, with EPR coming in and other policies that have actually made markets for us. But if I had to have a specific ask specifically for ReCircle and our sector, it would be the GST rate. I mean, it's a very unrelated conversation as compared to the other panelists, but we are working in a sector which is largely informal, it's fragmented, and we are working towards formalizing the scrap dealers, aggregators, waste collectors across the ecosystem itself. And what has happened in our industry is that while the rate for plastic scrap was 5% on GST in 2021, it was increased to 18% post that. And that has, worked not in our favor because the margins are not enough to actually pay 18% GST on it. Additionally, when you're looking at formalizing a sector and making sure that large informal players are coming and getting formalized, we need incentive for them to actually get formalized. So I think one of the areas that I would ask the government to look at, specifically the GST department, is to see how we can, normalize the GST on plastic waste so that there is more incentive for people to be formalized as compared to being informal in the current space. But otherwise, I think the government is doing a great job with Swachh Bharat movement and EPR in terms of building policies that are going to be market makers for the entire ecosystem.
For the entire ecosystem. Thanks, gentlemen. That's all from my side. And thanks for sharing your honest perspectives. I'd conclude it by saying clearly profitability and sustainability are complementary goals. They're not mutually exclusive ones. What I say is green is the future. We have to work collectively towards achieving it, going in the same direction, of course, with a lot of efforts that we have to put in, but we have to put it in the right direction. That's all from my side. Thank you everyone for your time. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.